On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk our year-end review, wrap up with all of our favorite moments from this past year on ResiWeek. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 99, the holiday wrap-up.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Harman International.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today is our yearly year in review wrap-up show. On this show, you are going to hear the clips that were kind of the most popular, the things that we thought mattered the most this year on ResiWeek. So first, let's kick this right off. We are going to look at episode 52. In this episode, we chatted with Vin Bruno, Jason Knott, and Haggai Feiner about the sale of the CEDIA Expo. That's CEDIA's main trade show that happens every year towards the end of the year, the end of summer. And on this episode, we specifically talked about how the sale will impact CEDIA members and what it means specifically for the CEDIA organization going forward.
The show is an emotional attachment, right? From the beginning of time, our board, they want to leave no stone unturned on how we may best serve our members. And, this particular opportunity with Emerald, has been in the works for just prior to our CEDIA 2016 show. And, there was a reaffirmation when they attended our show, the executives from Emerald. They saw the energy of our members, the energy of our exhibitors, the energy of our, CEDIA Awards and Celebration event. And, the fact of the matter is, it makes Emerald more valuable. And Emerald is in a position to deliver CEDIA members with the greatest community this organization will ever see.
So one of the questions I had for you, Vin, was looking at this. One of the statements that Jason made was that you stated that you would lose essentially your marketing team for about 9 months as they're working on the show. So with that kind of involvement that your staff had in producing the show and putting it all together, what are they going to be able to put that amount of time into now that they don't have to focus on the show?
Serving our members. Cybersecurity is a big issue, right? CEDIA's got to get in front of, providing best practices, education, certifications, and to make the homeowners feel comfortable that, technology in their homes are safe. That's just one example. I've got, a list of projects, and we have a direction that we're setting, and it's all about, driving business and profitability to our members. And the show will not only will it still be there for our members, but it'll be bigger and better than ever because Emerald has the ability to bridge all of the kitchen and bath technology and those profit opportunities for our members.
So, Jason, in your research into this, obviously, because you wrote the story and spent a lot of time following it, what can CEDIA members expect to see going forward as they've as Emerald takes over and as Vin just said, has the potential to add a lot of technologies that maybe the CEDIA channel guys and women haven't focused on as much?
Well, first, let me just kind of point out that this is not unheard of. You look at the relationship that the Security Industry Association has with Reed Expositions that owns the ISC West and the ISC East shows as an independent owner of those events, and SIA benefits as an organization to be able to do exactly what Vin just described, free itself up and move on to all the issues that also face its members, regulatory, combating regulations, consumer awareness, all those sorts of things. So unanimously from our group, I shouldn't say unanimously, almost unanimously from the readers, we heard very, very positive things about it. And I can only defer to what Vin mentioned when he and I spoke, which was that this is going to allow them to really jumpstart or re-jumpstart their efforts and things like their boot camp roadshows and their webinars that'll be reignited, those sorts of things from an educational standpoint.
Very good. Haggai, as you know, obviously a member, but also an exhibitor, what does this type of change mean for you?
So I think as any exhibitor would worry, what will be the rates now that Emerald is going to be taking over? You know, what's going to be the price per square foot for us to pay to go to CEDIA? So I think that's normal. I also think, and I know doing some research, that CEDIA has been offering square footage at the show at a relatively low rate if you look at other shows. So I would expect that to level off with other industries. So that would make sense for me. And at the same time, I see great value on us being there exhibiting at CEDIA. And so it doesn't necessarily scare me, but it's definitely something that's on my mind. And I think we are, as humans, we don't like change. And when change comes, we sometimes, we have our reservations. I think time will tell. Emerald, this is not their first rodeo. They've done this before. They know what they're doing. And we have to trust Vin and CEDIA that, this is the good decision for CEDIA going forward. What I do expect, though, and I think, that's kind of the other side beyond the show, is I'd like CEDIA to take a more active role in determining the future of our industry.
In episode 85, we continue the CEDIA conversation, and we talk with Joe Whitaker and Tim Albright about the sale of CEDIA Expo for the shocking and slightly large number of $36 million. This was recently released just as we went into recording of this show. We discuss what the sale means in light of the recently revealed sale price, and more importantly, what it means for the organization to sell their show for $36 million. Tim, my question for you is, because of all these numbers and that potential profit and a 9-year payback, why do we actually care what they paid for the show?
Because here's the thing, and you guys both mentioned you were both members of CEDIA. Joe's a member of the board. You're up for election for the board.
Yes, I am. Vote for Matt.
Yeah, vote for Matt.
Good job.
You
Sorry,
guys
I had to throw one in there.
That was not planned.
Not at all
on my part. You guys care that this show continues, right?
Yes.
It's a meeting place. It's a place for CEDIA to provide education, which you guys are still going to do. The reason you care whether or not they overpaid is because of the profitability of that show. If they overpaid, and I understand the ROI of 9 years, if $4 million is what they can get out of it every year, 9-year ROI, and then on the 10th year they start making money on it. If they overpaid and the show is not profitable, then they're going to close it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the negative side, right?
Hold on. There's a caveat to that.
Go ahead.
If that happens, CEDIA in itself has the right to kick the show right back on under CEDIA ownership.
Okay. So, and I wasn't aware of that in the contract there, but what I'm saying is that's the negative side of that, and that's the only negative side I can come up with, though, right? The positive side is obviously CEDIA as an organization gets a $36 million influx of capital that you guys can do some really, really killer stuff with, especially as you're consolidating your international stuff and you're bringing CEDIA EMEA into the fold, and that's going to take some resources. You're expanding. You're offering more education. You're offering more certifications. You're getting into talking to higher education facilities. I know one of our buddies, George Tucker, is doing education for college students right now through CEDIA. So you're doing some interesting things. Those things take revenue, right? Those things take resources and they take capital to do so. So you got a really good deal on that side. The only negative side I can come up with, if they overpay again, and again, this is a big if, because Matt makes a good point of a 9-year ROI, is that there is a risk, if it's not profitable after so many years, that they may shut it down. But to Joe's point, then CEDIA, the organization, can come back and pick it back up.
And that's one thing that, a lot of people, because all of this was so hush-hush because of NDAs and everything else, is that all of these things were taken into consideration with the board. if this is not going to be our year-over-year revenue generator anymore, what is going to be? Well, education, this thing, road shows, all these, that was all, okay, and then what if they decide that the CEDIA show is no longer for them? Okay, where do we go with that? Because the thing is to make sure that everything that we did before the day of any contracts being signed, if there was any kind of nuclear fallout at any single point, there is a plan for continuance on every level.
In episode 77, we talk with Ted Green and John Robbins discussing Amazon beginning to form its own version of Best Buy's Geek Squad and what the effects that Amazon jumping feet first into our industry will have on our industry. John, are we seeing the start of the DIY with Amazon or the DIY with Best Buy situation where the Amazon techs and the Best Buy techs will deal with a lot of the off-the-shelf products, leaving not necessarily a lot of room for your local integrator to come in and work in that market segment? Is that what we're moving towards?
I don't believe so. I'm still really bullish on the integrators going in and providing a solution for consumers. I still think that, and look, I mentioned it earlier, part of it is even something as simple, which would be total DIY, which would be a Nest thermostat. Mm-hmm. Even something as simple as that, folks are still looking for someone to come in and do the work for them and to hand them a finished product that they can start enjoying technologies and hopefully performance entertainment product in their homes. So no, I don't think so. I think we've got to continue to train these folks properly, and the folks that we're sending into people's homes, and so that there is a good end user experience. I again am very bullish on our channel for integration.
Now, I don't know if anyone's ever done a post installation survey, but given the Amazon surveys, they're saying that right now in their online reviews, they're getting 95%. I would argue, and I don't want to be negative towards our industry, but just because we're kind of in that contractor channel, I'd love to see if we were pushing 95%.
Is that a question?
Yeah, it was sort of. It was half amusing on my part, and hoping one of you was going to save me.
I think the Amazon number is very Trump-like, and I will tell you, admittedly, I don't think that our integration channel hits anywhere even close to 95% satisfaction rate.
Yeah,
and not because we're not doing a good job, not because we're doing a bad job, but because there are a lot of factors involved.
Of course.
But I will tell you, I would highly doubt that Amazon 95%.
Ted, question for you. You've obviously researched this fairly heavily. Obviously, you wrote the article. When we look at what Amazon's trying to get into, Best Buy, for example, you can have Geek Squad come out, repair your computer, fix your Wi-Fi, put in a Philips smart bulb for you. Heck, they'll mount your TV. They might even route a cable behind a wall. Are we expecting, or do you have any insight on whether Amazon is going to be offering that level and that variety of services? Or is it going to be as simple as coming in, checking your Wi-Fi, showing you maybe a Google Mesh product, or sorry, not a Google Mesh product, but another Mesh product, some Alexa stuff like that? Or are they going to get into cutting a hole in the wall?
Okay, so I think, so first of all, I have to say this guy's one of my favorite writers.
Mm-hmm. He's fantastic. He's absolutely
I think he does
fantastic.
A great job.
I think you're biased, but he's fantastic.
But besides that, this article, the bigger picture of this article, the bigger story to this is my alarm bell for the future of IoT industry. And while I don't disagree with John, I would say that I think it would be wise for our industry to watch how this develops. Remember, we just talked a moment ago about how iteration one is never the perfect solution. Mm-hmm. And so this is iteration 1 for Amazon. We right now have a nationwide network of service personnel in the form of Geek Squad and associated with Best Buy that is doing a lot of business, including a lot of installations. Okay. Now we've learned via this article that another nationwide network of Geek Squadish type service from Amazon is being rolled out. As I mentioned in the article, a lot of this is the result of them supporting the Alexa and their attack, if you will, on the smart home market and the smart home channel. The fact that they will send somebody to your home for 45 minutes for free who will set up a system, demonstrate it to you, show you how great voice control is, and then leave you with a customized list of items for you to purchase from Amazon. So that you can have that that experience in your home. The fact for $99 they'll come to your home and they'll install either the Ecobee 4 or Nest, or where there are still some integrators that are not integrating Nest into their systems. My point to you is this may go nowhere, but I would keep a very close eye on this. It's clear to me that Amazon is very serious about this business. They're very serious about the smart home industry. I was very suspicious of them being a keynote at CEDIA and their desire to incorporate and enlist the aid of the independent integrator, when we now learn that they're hiring, in essence, their own factory integrators, if you will. So this is an interesting, there are multiple waves of interest in this story that I think bear watching.
In episode 89, we hit on a huge topic with a completely stacked panel consisting of Joe Whitaker, Haggai Feiner, Mitchell Klein, and Michael Bridwell. On this episode, we discover that the WPA2 wireless security protocol has been hacked and what this means for everyone, integrators to end users alike.
Obviously, it's a problem. It's a problem for all of us from a service perspective. We're going to have to wait for the manufacturers to come out with fixes. Some of them have already done so I applaud Microsoft, Apple, but for example, for Androids, we don't have a fix yet, so that's something to watch for. On the hardware manufacturing side, from a Wi-Fi perspective, Ruckus Wireless is still working on it, is what I hear, direct contact today. But then you have Ubiquiti that already came out with a fix, and the same thing with Aruba, so that's good. The effect of something like this for our channel is relatively limited, and for two main reasons. Number one, whoever wants to attack you needs to be with proximity to your location, meaning they need to be within Wi-Fi range. So unless someone deliberately wanted to find said homeowner or Joe's office, them coming to you is relatively unlikely. And even if they were to come to your house and be within range of your network, the next thing that would have to happen is that they would have to have a relatively complicated setup of equipment to interject themselves between your client and your wireless network and essentially be the man in the middle and kind of sniff those packets and then potentially modify those packets. But even still, if you were on Chase Business Banking and you were conducting your business and someone did hack your Wi-Fi network, they would still not see that kind of traffic because it's encrypted with HTTPS. So there's another layer of encryption that they would have to go through that they won't be able to break. And so it really is, the effects on our channel should be relatively minimal, if any. And again, the real question is, how long is it going to take for those manufacturers to come up with a fix?
Very good.
I'll tell you something that's really interesting timing, because about a couple of weeks ago, we got notification from Google that all of your websites had to be now HTTPS, or you risk no longer being searchable on the Google search algorithm. So someone must have known something was up long before this press release came out. Very interesting.
And also remember that this type of problem is affecting both the wireless network equipment and the clients. So if I have Sony TVs that have Google Android running on them and a Wi-Fi chip, which is connecting back to my wireless system, I can be attacked through those devices as well. So when you patch, you have to patch everything.
Wow.
Everybody's going to have to come out with a patch.
Well, and Joe, given that what Haggai just said about how it's every device, it's not just your Wi-Fi base or your access point, it's every device in that chain. Sure, we are going to expect the Ciscos and the Netgears and the Ruckus and all the big boys. They'll patch all their gear at some point. But is Sony or Samsung or Vizio or any IoT device that's on Wi-Fi, are any of those guys likely going to patch? I saw today that they're expecting an Android patch in the next few weeks, not in the next couple of days, next few weeks. What are you supposed to do at that point?
Well, I'm with Haggai 100% on this, because you got to think about anytime there's been a big hack like this in the past, they don't go after, residential clients. They don't go after small offices. I'm going to keep my eye across the street where there's a big corporation and wait for the white van to pull up that has to have enough gear to actually capture, log onto that access point, and then try to dig into their local servers, which that is the end game. That's the fear. Just getting onto that Wi-Fi or getting into that TV and saying, hey, what's the network traffic? No. Those guys who are going to try to actually use this are going to try to get onto these corporate infrastructures that are using these access points, and they're going to try to use that to gain access to the internal network. They're going to try to get in machine. Who cares about traffic? That like Haggai said, it's all encrypted. Unless they have both sides of it, that the information does them no good. However, Sony and all those, and Android saying 2 weeks. On smaller consumer devices, fine. You hack my Android TV sitting here in my office, and what are you going to get? You might find out what I watch on Netflix. You might get my Hulu username and password. You're not going to be, I don't do banking on my TV. These things are, it always comes back to that, the security purpose of what are you trying to protect? Now, if they gain access to the local network through that crack in WPA2 and they're getting to local devices, okay, now we have a problem in residential where this actually happened. Haggai brought up a good thing in this is a long time ago in WEP. When that crack happened, we tested that crack, and I could gain access to an access point. And from that access point, I could get on the LAN. And from that LAN, I could unlock the front door, shut off the security cameras, and turn off the security system. Those are the kind of attacks that there's fear in that. But by the time these guys, they're going to waste their time at big corporations. They're not going to come to my house. They're not going to go to they might go to Haggai's house just to drive that car. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they might spot that out. But
they might spot that out. But
yeah, a little bit.
It's going to be a little different. It's going to be fixed fast, and it's going to be fixed before it reaches residential.
Very good. Michael.
I think what this highlights is and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, is the continued need for the homeowner to have a single resource to handle their technology in the home. And that is something that is continuous, and it's something that's only going to, increase, not decrease.
Michael, I wanted to ask and get your opinion on this, because when stuff like this comes up, it goes everywhere. It gets all over the news. It hits social media like crazy. And there's a lot of disinformation, essentially, as far as concern and just not knowing what this actually means. We're in this business. We deal with this on a daily basis. We can read this article and say, okay, it's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal because it's residential. It's not commercial. We're not Bank of America. How do you as an integrator dispel the fear that a lot of your clients may get as soon as they see this and go, oh my God, my Wi-Fi has been hacked?
Well, I have never been on the integrator side. I've always purely been manufacturer. But the first thing that goes to my mind is the integrators that are in the LA area, the integrators that are in the mountain areas, north in Utah and Colorado. People of high net worth that are going to say, sure, I get it. It's not a massive residential threat at this point in time, but we are constant targets, being high net worth people, being people of high visibility, and we will be the residential people that will be targeted. So, yeah, I don't know if I were on that side, and if most of my client base was in affluent areas, I would be quite concerned about it in the short term. And conversely, if I was somebody with a large amount of high net worth, I would certainly be paranoid about what I'm putting in my home as well as who I'm partnering with. I think Hagai said it best. I think having a centralized point of contact for all things that you can trust is critical. And that's, it's reason 1,477 that somebody would use a proven, honest integrator.
Very good. Mitchell, just before we go, does this affect any of the Z-Wave products and things like that? Is there anything that people need to be aware of?
Fortunately, nope, not at all.
I love
even our Z-Wave over IP is all through a TLS 1.1 tunnel, and it's pretty secure. But as Hagai aptly pointed out, any device in there is a point of access. And what I might add to Michael's point is, as an integrator, it's a fabulous opportunity for me to reach out to my customers, explain what's going on, and tell them why they shouldn't be worried. And they'll come out with a new update to the security protocols. And again, I think it's just a great opportunity for the integrators as opposed to a problem for them.
Thanks again for joining us on this lovely end-of-year wrap-up special. For myself, if you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again. As we're wrapping up this show, I just wanted to essentially thank everyone for listening. Thank you for watching. We've had an incredibly successful year here on the ResiWeek podcast. Thank you so much for being our guests, being our listeners, and we look forward to another fantastic year in 2018. So if you'd like to connect with us, please do that. We'd love to hear from all of our listeners and guests alike. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this end of the year wrap-up show for ResiWeek.